And welcome back to the show. We are honored to have the one and only Reverend Dr. William Barber in the house, the architect of what I call the 21st century version of the Poor People's Campaign. The Reverend has done so much. He's written many op-eds. He is an author. He appears on national mainstream TV all the time. He has been on our network before. He is one of the strongest moral voices of our time. Dr. Barber, welcome to Unbossed. So glad to have you here. And you're looking cool with that hat on.
Watch it. You got the glasses, I got the hat.
Hey, we a perfect combination. Now, Red, we gotta have you back because I want our viewers to really get the essence of who you are and what you are working towards. I know our time is a little short, but I wanted to ask you about the Poor People's Campaign and the 21st century version of what you're carrying out, standing very much on the shoulders of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and so many of his contemporaries in a fight to bring poor people together from all walks of life to fight to change their material conditions in this country. You have indicted this country on several occasions, given them examples and ways to make things right. Where are we at this point in time, in your view?
Well, certainly, as you know, Senator, we're in a rough place. And let me just say on behalf of my co-chair, the Reverend Dr. Liz Steele Harris, and reminding that it was actually the welfare rights women and Mary Wright Edelman that brought this to Dr. King, and he picked it up. But you know, here we are, 50-some years after that. We got 140 million poor and low-wealth people in this country unnecessarily, 55 million people who make less than a living wage. We had 50 Republicans and 2 Democrats literally vote against 55 million people 2 years ago and say no to them having a wage. I mean, that's an incredible indictment. And I was looking at something the other day, Nina, 330,000 people died during COVID because they didn't have health care, not because of COVID. So one of the things that we're going to be doing, we're having a massive conference. We're going to be inviting you, by the way, in June. It's going to be called the Moral Poverty Action Congress. And we want you to be one of the persons there, bringing together poor and impacted people, religious leaders, and advocates. But here's the thing, we're going to drill down in what we call death factor. We've decided that we got to put this death factor in front of America. And quickly, what I mean by that is, if we say we're not moved by people dying, it's not just police brutality, it's black cops beating up a black man, and white cops killing a black man named Floyd. 700 people die a day from poverty. 700 people a day. That's 250,000 people a year. And I can go on with the stats, but we've got to make the country see that this bad public policy is not only is it violent, it's not benign, it's death dealing. And we got to decide that in America, death is no longer an option.
Yeah.
We got to be the resurrection.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. So yeah, and I look forward to joining you in June. I would be very honored. And in an earlier segment, we did put up a quote from you about, I cannot help to think that it was in a conversation you were having on with the Guardian in a panel about Ukraine, and you raised a moral question about war and the impact of war, both domestically and also internationally, and the impact that it has on us as a people. Reverend, we have got to have you back. We just barely scratched the surface here on Unbossed. I have so many questions for you. I wanted to ask you about Memphis and the police brutality, DeSantis and the rise of open anti-blackness. I mean, he really is channeling the spirits of segregationist governors in a century gone by. He is the new resurrection of that, and he's not the only one. So Reverend, we're gonna get with Charmaine and get you back on the show. I want to thank you so much for the work that you do for each and every one of us, and I look forward to joining you in June. We did do a segment about you and what you had to say right before we brought you on. So sending you so much love and congratulations on all of your great work, you and Reverend Theo Harris and so many others. And that is our time today on Unbossed. We just thank you so much for joining us. And you know what I want you to do about this time? I want you to keep the faith, but more importantly, I want you to keep the fight. Those two things go together. Until next time.
Let's go, you guys. It is a Monday edition on the watch list. A little bit more awake version of the watch list, as it is afternoon, evening for most of you guys out there. Glad you could join us for our inaugural change of time as we step into the afternoon and lead you through the rest of this day. Some things haven't changed, though. It is still Monday. And yes, it is still the best damn day of the week. Whether it's in the morning or in the afternoon, Jessica Burbank joins me on the program. She's a TYT contributor here to bring that heat. What's up, Jess?
It's the watch list at night.
Sometimes you just have to shift it and change it on people. Make sure they're still paying attention. There's still the same stuff we have to get through. Well, similarly, all the important news and all those things that you guys like to see throughout the day. You know what? There's devastating things happening across the world. In fact, as of early this morning, this was going down. Let's go ahead and jump into this. Let's get it started.
Güvenli alana geçiyoruz bizler şu anda. Vatandaşları da görüyorsunuz. Deprem oluyor gene. Kaçın ol. Arkadaşlar.
Incredibly devastating video being taken by citizens on the streets after early on Monday, a 7.8 magnitude earthquake struck in southeastern Turkey, which is close, of course, also to the Syrian border, which was significantly affected by it as well. You saw buildings coming down, people running in the streets. Apparently over 2,000 people and counting so far have been discussed as dying in this disaster. Other countries felt the shock from this. In Cyprus, Egypt, Israel, and Lebanon all felt it. Here's a couple details here, because that initial quake, there was a second, by the way, which many in those videos were taken of the second, which was 7.5. Let's watch this here. The initial quake was followed by dozens of powerful aftershocks, including the biggest one, the 7.5 magnitude quake, in the same fault zone of South Central Turkey on Monday. Most of the damage in southern Turkey and northern central Syria is where it all centered. There's a map of where that happened. Let's look at this again, that map you guys put up there for a second. So it's centered in the middle. You see the epicenter there, Turkey, southeastern part about it, right next to Syria. And you can see the stretches of the effects. It's disastrous. So since Syria was hit pretty hard by this whole thing, as you can imagine, they had humanitarian efforts coming as well, because now it's search and rescue. Whoever may have survived under all this rubble, you see those taller buildings coming down. There was a search from the group, the White Helmets, you guys may have heard of. They're a humanitarian group in Syria. And this was the plea that they put out for some assistance in the hard work that they're doing.
Hundreds of civilians were killed and maybe thousands of people were injured by an earthquake hit northwest Syria a few hours ago. Many buildings in different cities and villages in northwest Syria collapsed, destroyed by this earthquake. Our teams responded to all the sites and the buildings, and still now many families now are under the rubble. Our teams trying to save them, trying to save the people, to save all the people from under the rubble with all capabilities, but it's very difficult task for us. We need help. We need the international community to do something to help us, to support us. Northwest Syria now it's a disaster area. We need help from everyone to save our people.
Luckily, his pleas were actually answered, at least to a degree, because there was humanitarian help being offered up by dozens and dozens of countries, including countries like Britain, US, Ukraine, Israel, Russia, Iran, China, many more. WHO organization, the UN, it's pretty much across the board. Everyone's looking to help and assist here. If you name a country, it's probably in some form of assisting there. So that is the good news. Again, those folks, that organization there, the humanitarian aid organization, Helmets, I watched a documentary about them a couple years ago. I hadn't heard about them. And usually they dig into buildings under rubble looking for innocent civilians after an attack has been carried out. And usually it's part of a conflict that they are summoned in. This time it's part of natural disasters. Let's watch a little bit of the things that they're doing, because it's amazing work that they do under such tough circumstances. Watch this.
يلا اعطينا طريقة يا شباب ولد يلا ما شاء الله نمر يلا استنى خليه يطلع بفوق استنى هذا احمد ايدك شوي افتح الباب
And of course, as they find survivors and help them medically, they also, of course, are finding many folks who did not make it. One last part here, Jess, is many of those residents, and maybe this is the power of the time frame that we're in, are actually, if they happen to be alive and are under some of this, there are some that are reaching out via social media to plea for help. It's amazing. So some of these residents, including some who said that they were trapped inside of that rubble, used Instagram and Twitter to post some pleas for help. In several cases, victims included images or videos that showed them surrounded by debris. And in others, people posted their addresses to direct rescue workers. The fact that it's also cold outside is another aspect of this that's hurting. The infrastructure is, of course, tearing apart. Economically, it's going to be hitting Turkey extremely hard, worth hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars here. There's a lot going on here, Jess, and this just all happened overnight.
Yeah, absolutely insane. I mean, it's just another reminder that this could happen anywhere. These kinds of disasters are going to be more frequent. I mean, of course, earthquakes are not caused by climate change, but we're going to experience many more natural disasters unless we course correct, which many scientists have said is not possible at this point, which is terrifying. But I was thinking, can bombs cause earthquakes, considering the amount of bombs that have been dropped in Syria and in the region? Apparently not. That's not possible. So that hypothesis, there's just no science backing it up. But it's interesting that something like this can happen, and we don't see resources mobilized as fast as when something like the Notre Dame Cathedral caught on fire. There were people all around the world, donating to rebuild this church, this religious institution. But the teachings of Christianity would suggest that we help people who are in trouble. And it's really hard understanding, like, as a global community, that we're more willing to put funds towards reconstructing a building than helping people who are hurting. It just doesn't sit right with me. Just thinking about GDP and all of the resources we have and what we can do as a humanity, just our economy alone in the United States, and how much of that money and that labor power and those resources go towards things like developing and purchasing Candy Crush when stuff like this is happening. It just doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah, and it's one thing that struck me as far as the humanitarian efforts that were coming from so many different countries. I was like, well, this is quick, I guess. I'm not sure the degree to which each country provides something, but the fact that now, again, when you see countries like China, Russia, when you hear so many negative things, you go, oh man, really? I thought Russia was in the middle of this conflict in Ukraine, right? And we're sending aid to Ukraine, and this battle, and that fight, and that battle, and someone else dying, and then this other thing's going on. Still, there's a pause that can still happen. And I guess something like this can go down, which leads to the question of why can't it usually go down? Or why does there have to be these conflicts? Because people are jostling for this position of power and money and influence across the world. And that's just the way us humans are. Is there an end? Who knows? But once children are being pulled out of rubble, I guess there's a certain percentage of folks who don't care. But it seems like it's encapsulated many folks across the world to at least care about it in this case. I would hope it'd be the same thing when attacks are the reasons why children are being pulled out of rubble. Let's take a look at this next story, though. Back on the home front up here in Oregon, though, this is crazy. And there's this one particular person in this video that you're gonna see that I'm envious of this guy. This guy's a badass. Let's watch. That boat there that was out in the middle of the ocean was flipped over. As you can see, is a man swimming behind it to it. That is a rescue swimmer looking to get to this boat before then that huge wave capsized both him and the boat. There's details about that boat. There's so many layers to this story. It was actually stolen. But before we get to more details about that, let's watch more of what happened.
Due to the dangerous conditions, the Coast Guard decided a boat rescue wouldn't be possible. So they sent Petty Officer 3rd Class Branch Walton, a rescue swimmer, to carry out the mission. But then this happened.
I kind of got thrown around a little bit by the wave, and then when I came up, I noticed that the boat was pretty much in shambles and kind of split in two.
Despite the rogue wave and capsized vessel, Walton reached the survivor.
As soon as I got up, I let the helicopter know that I was okay. Started looking around immediately, and it worked out perfectly.
After crews pulled the man to safety, he was taken to the hospital. The Coast Guard posted the videos and this picture.
That picture then led to the next steps here. Okay, we have this badass, Walton, I guess the only name I caught from that, who swam in the middle of this and still got to the man on that boat, despite all the disaster that went down. And then they posted that picture, a harrowing rescue. Look at this guy. Can you believe it? He's good to be alive. And then some folks looked up and said, wait a second, that guy's been on a crime spree. I recognize that guy, including folks that were harassed at their home by this guy. Let's watch how that went down.
The person rescued was the same man accused of putting a fish on the porch of the Goonies house 2 days earlier. Jericho Labani.
One of my buddies was like, dude, you will not believe what just happened. Like, check this out.
The new owner of the Goonies house, Bayman Zachary, isn't surprised when people stop by, but he was surprised to see this.
But he pulls out this gigantic, like, fish that obviously is not alive and just places it. And, being from Kansas City, like, you got to wonder, is the guy sending a message and I'm going to be sleeping with the fishes or something,
Fast forward to Friday. Astoria Police Chief Stacy Kelly explained they were piecing all this together when they got a call from the Coast Guard.
Connections were being made that it was the same person and that he was at the hospital.
Around 7:30 Friday night, officers arrested Labani at a warming shelter in Seaside on charges of theft, endangerment, and unauthorized use of a vehicle.
So they got him, saved him, then got their man. Other folks, of course, risked their lives for him after he took off in this boat. But again, he shows up at someone's house, drops a fish on it, moves on. He's been apparently the Canadian police up in British Columbia were also searching for him as well. This guy has been wreaking havoc all over the place. Let's jump down to the next graphic after that. Graphic 2 though, you guys, because police in Astoria said that they had been looking for Labonte since Wednesday. And although they didn't know who he was at the time, of course, jumping through boats and that type of stuff, they were looking for that man who had posted a video of himself on social media, placing that dead fish on the front porch. Again, you guys heard this, of the Goonies house. Yes, that's the same house as from the 1985 Steven Spielberg film, The Goonies, and one of the city's most popular tourist attractions. He also was seen dancing around the property. Here's a picture of that house. I saw Goonies a very long time ago. It's like I've never seen it. So I wouldn't have recognized the house. Maybe it's the orange deck and highlights there that has people figuring this whole thing out. But there's something that stuck out to me here in this image. It said this fan was buying the famed Goonies house for $1.7 million. Sorry, third side note on this entire thing. I looked up the median rental prices in Astoria, Oregon. Yes, I did, Em. It is like $499,000. So strictly because this 1985 house from the Goonies is the 1985 house from the Goonies, it went for 1.7 mil. I guess the fellas down there off on the right side of the screen made it famous. There's so much going on here. I'm not really sure if the police even know what they've gotten themselves involved with, Jess.
I think it's disrespectful they're calling him a criminal. Someone who steals a boat is a pirate. Call them what they're supposed to be called. This guy's a pirate. He put a fish on somebody's porch. That's pirate stuff to me. I don't know. Everything that went down. What, Jayar?
He's all the way in, no matter what. What are you gonna do? Put like a dog? You gotta put a fish.
He's committed to the lifestyle.
Man of the water.
Our country's become one big GTA lobby. My buddy Troy says, New York City is a big GTA lobby. I think it's the whole country at this point. And you can steal a boat in GTA. You go up next to it, you press triangle. I mean, that's what's going down here. We live in a GTA lobby.
Don't show off. I played GTA. I haven't played in years, so I apologize for that whole thing. No, I need to make sure we highlight the best person in this entire thing. Let's go back to Walton. Right. You guys can run him next to me if you want. This guy was dropped in by a helicopter. He works for the Coast Guard, or is in the Coast Guard. Drops in by helicopter, and imagine how many people on Earth would want to be dropped into these waters to go and pull folks off a boat that can't stay afloat. And the reason they dropped them in is because they're like, I'm not sending a boat in there, you crazy? So this guy has to be the crazy one. At what point in your life do you go, I'm gonna be a rescue swimmer. Drop me in the middle of this. It couldn't be me.
This is a story about superheroes and pirates, JR.
Absolutely. Hey, it's like a Marvel movie.
That's Aquaman.
Look at this guy. This guy deserves like all the medals and money that you can send him. Let's find his GoFundMe. Let's take this first break. How about that first before we go to that? A few of your comments as we go through this afternoon on the watch list. But though when we come back, though, we have stories of course, LA Sheriff's Department's harassing folks. That's usually, but there's an update though, because there's one particular rapper that was snatched out of his car and unlawfully detained. There's updates because he's finally filing some kind of a lawsuit against them, and they're not really having it. We're gonna do that and much more when we come back.
Welcome to Happy Hour, everybody. After a week of soul-crushing news, we break out the good stuff. Good news, good videos, good people, and of course, drink good alcohol. That's the worst thing I've ever had.
This is the best show.
Full disclosure, we did do a shot right before the show began. It says, let's flamingo.
Flamingo.
The reason you had trouble with that word is it's not a word.
Okay.
This is the one of everything.
I got a rash. Could I just put it on that to see if it'll take it off?
What did you used to think this was?
Bull.
Drink it, swallow it,
No.
spit it. Oh, that's needed after a day like this. Cheers to Brett Ehrlich. Climax. Uranus smells like farts. Because of course it does. This is the worst sketch ever of a perp. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? They found the guy. This is Sophie's super happy dog story of the week.
This dog is so precious and deserves the world. I'm just not drinking that beer.
Here's my dog. This is Onyx.
Yeah, I would just say that he's exotic because he's not your traditional dog. Still 12 out of 10 because they're all good.
Well, if that made you happy, just wait till you see the best thing ever of the week. There is a woman who moves like a horse.
Why do I want to go home and like try this?
We're actually going to show you the running butthole challenge right now. What's happening? No, that's just wrong. Every way. And we'll see you next time.
Hey, Dave. As you can probably see, Skype froze. Yes. Froze and crashed.
I'm watching that documentary on the Vietnam War, and there was a TV journalist in the middle of some tiny little village in Vietnam doing live TV as the soldiers were burning the Vietnamese huts, and it didn't crash. And that was 1965, and he was in Vietnam.
Watch list, you guys. Matter of fact, you list. That doesn't make any sense, but still. Let's read some of your comments here. TYT members, glad to see you guys here. Maybe there's gonna be some different names because I heard many of you morning folks have bailed on us because of the time change. But once you lose one, you gain another. Biden Flavor Corn Pop says, love this rescue worker with fire hearts. Get that GoFundMe. Get it. All I got was Walton from it. I think I missed his first name. Shy Coltrane 42 says, sub comrades. I have to get used to the new schedule, but flowers to JJ, just the same. Yo, we've got a Burbank right here. Burbank, I think she should get all the love. Now look what happened. What'd you say? What'd you do?
I don't know. Maybe it's the morning afternoon crowd situation.
You're way out there on the East Coast. It's a problem. Vicky, also TYT member, says, welcome, JR, to my available time slot. Jess, awesome as always. There it is. Heart hugs to you both and all the TYT reporters presenting these heartbreaking stories on a daily basis. It seems absolutely hourly basis. It could actually go. Tuffy Dragon Trainer says, hey, wow, I can finally watch the watch list live. Flexed arms and clapped hands and big hearts. Love you guys. One more on Twitch. We know I love you guys on Twitch. Tony Forrester says, has watch list changed times? Yes, this is live. This is now. Also, El Estois, Black Dragon. Did I get that right? I fell asleep when JR was supposed to be on and woke up and JR is on. Hey, the universe just sent you my way. Let's make sure this continues to happen. Let's go ahead and jump into this next story. Since you're here, Toi, and let's go a little bit for this. It's an update on a devastating story from New Year's Eve. Let's start.
If you move your hands from right there, you're in trouble.
So you gonna shoot me? I'm sitting in the damn car, bro.
14809 Crenshaw. Move your hands from right there, and you're done.
So I'm under arrest or what, bro? You got guns.
You are most definitely 1,050% detained. And if you do anything other than what you're doing right now, then you're gonna have some major consequences to deal with. Unfortunately for you, you shouldn't smoke so much weed in your car, and then we wouldn't have to search you.
I didn't smoke no weed in my car. I have weed in my car. I didn't smoke no weed in my car. It's not legal.
Do you have like anger issues or what?
That disrespectful video that you saw from a cops, LA Sheriff's Department approaching a man sitting in his car in a parking lot. Rapper Feezy LeBron there, pulling guns on him. You guys may remember this. We talked about it earlier on the watch list. Immediately, guns out, I'm gonna kill you over and over again. But somehow he's got the anger management issues, as you saw from that false assumption that he was smoking weed in his car. This was reported by Sarah Suleiman of Streets Blog LA. She hits the streets and finds all these different things happening that in many cases probably wouldn't be reported. Either way it goes, Feezy then told a story about everything that went down, how he reluctantly then he went to the police station afterwards on New Year's Eve after being held for hours or so, and then of course released because nothing was wrong. He then went there and they harassed him further, delayed, kept him there for several hours. He's released some of that footage of, again, that same cop who had a gun on him hours earlier. Then he greets him at the station as if this is a wonderful event, but he's taunting more. Here's the video that we didn't see.
Still here. See the time. Almost New Year's. Got here a little bit before 8.
Right. Okay. Your whole incident was captured on body-worn video camera.
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
So it's to show that you came up to me for no reason and snatched me out of the car.
Which you got a citation.
It's a lawful reason for what?
Which you got a citation for.
For sitting in the car? But you didn't ask me anything.
It's on
I'm
your
here to speak with the watch commander.
Okay, that's fine. I'm just letting you know that your claim is unfounded.
Okay. That's fine. You can laugh all you want. That's
I know,
good.
it's because it's funny, because it's on body camera.
It's funny that you
protect us from people like
yeah, people like me, black people. Yeah. It might be more than one video out there, so be careful.
The whole incident's recorded.
Yeah.
Feezy's a better man than I, because I would have said many more colorful words to that guy as he walked away. But still, he is seeking $10 million in a civil rights claim against the department after they then held him, snatched him out of the car, put guns on him, tased at him, and all of that. And it all started, by the way, this is him and his son there at a press conference announcing that $10 million lawsuit that, of course, police wouldn't have to pay. And of course, this guy, Justin Sabatine, the man who wanted to murder him so badly that night, won't have to deal with at all. But still, there's other details that came from this. And this is what I didn't know. Because once this became a bigger story, people were hearing about it, other folks started telling their stories too. And there were some similarities. There's one other part about this whole interaction that wasn't seen because officers' body cams were started late. Weird how that happens. Both officers that were on the scene originally, their body cams weren't showing much. But the rookie cop that was there originally, his name is Jacob Ruiz. He had an interaction with Feezy before Trigger Happy showed up. Here's those details. Ruiz had approached Feezy to ask if he was smoking weed while he's sitting in his car, not to ask about the missing license plate, which is what they eventually gave him a ticket for, which was later dismissed because it was BS. The goal from the outset was to search the vehicle regardless of what Feezy was doing. Ruiz can be heard on a video that Feezy had taken, asking him whether he was smoking weed multiple times. Feezy politely says no to each time, and having nothing to hide, he also tells Ruiz that he has weed in the vehicle, and it's legal here in California, and explains he wasn't smoking it because he's a grown man who didn't go around smoking weed in shop parking lots. I guess they just make tons of assumptions, which is why, as they were putting him in the car, he said you shouldn't smoke so much weed in your car, which he'd previously discovered from his partner that none of that was happening. But let's just go with it anyway. That's the latest thing that's going on. But the idea of reaching into someone's car, which is the first thing that Jacob Ruiz did in trying opening the door for no reason because he saw a black guy sit in his car, that's what led to then all of the rest of this, which led to guns being pointed and all that. We're gonna get to the next steps of this because that similarity we're gonna have some details for. But first, Jess, do you think he has a chance here, 10 mil?
I don't know if he'll get the full settlement. I think it's a good case to bring to trial to set a precedent. But we do know that the Los Angeles Police Department tends to settle these things. They're kind of defunding themselves. It's a huge problem that the Los Angeles Police Department budget is over $3 billion when they spend under $500 million on youth development and schools. It's absolutely ridiculous. And for someone, an officer, right, to pull someone over with their gun drawn is one thing. That's a traumatic experience, especially when they're doing nothing wrong at all. You should be able to sue for that. Police officers shouldn't do that. That's not normal behavior. To be wrongfully detained is on top of that terrible. So I think it's a good case to set a precedent for all of the other times this happens, which is often in Los Angeles, unfortunately. There's a reason that Kenneth Mejia ran and won on a platform that the police are getting too much money, and we need to look into how that money is spent. Not only that, but centering his campaign and the organizers on the campaign around Googling LASD gangs, because there are a lot of gangs in the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department as well. Just an absolute mess. And I think this is a good case to bring forward, not so much about the money as it is about changing behavior.
So as the money is maybe one of the subjects of this entire thing, the other part is the retribution and also the fear that's involved with it. Because Feezy there has said he was reluctant to do it in the first place. He has his son there and his I think teenage daughter and his the mother of his kids, his wife there, all of that talking about this, and they're afraid of what just might happen because there's another case. Let's jump down to the next slide here, you guys, because another rapper, One Take Teezy, I believe is his name, also had an encounter with cops. This is how that went down. Some similar things. Watch.
I ain't driving.
I know, but you're in the driver's seat.
That's cool.
You got a driver's license?
I ain't driving, but I do got a driver's license.
You got any warrants or warrants?
Nope.
Hey, bro, I'm gonna pull you out, make sure you're good, dude, all right?
No, what you pulling me out for?
Hey, you gotta
no, don't open my door, bro. Don't open my door, bro.
Come on out, dude.
Don't open my door.
Open this door.
Don't open my door.
Open the door, dude. You don't have a license?
What you opening my door for?
You don't have ID, your car started, everything.
Call your supervisor.
Nope.
Call your supervisor. Watch out, bro.
Hey, bro.
Man, watch out.
Hey, I'm gonna bust your window, bro. Hey,
bro, bust it.
Listen up.
Hey, call your supervisor.
Let me talk to you real quick, all right? Roll down the window. Let me talk to you.
Call your supervisor.
Let me talk to you real quick.
What up?
All right, the car's on, bro.
Okay. What you want? Why you opening up my door?
Teezy was sitting in front of his house in his car, and he came up harassing him. He told stories of the full interaction on another show where he said they just marauded down the street, picking out anybody that they wanted to, and they eventually got to him. He saw them coming. He said, if I drive off, then they're gonna think I'm running from something. So I hung out and started recording. Graphic 6 really fast, Jess. Even with the video of this stop on hand, Teezy didn't feel comfortable trying to file a complaint, similar to the way that Feezy had to. He said maybe if he thought something would come of it, he would have considered it. But he says he doesn't see it bringing him anything but grief. You could go complain about this certain officer, and that officer is still gonna be patrolling in the same area. But now he has developed a vendetta against me. So it's probably not gonna be a good end to the story when I run into this guy again. And there's stories, again, from Streets Blog LA that talk about other families of victims that have been murdered. And then when they file complaints, if they go and talk about it and advocate for their loved one that are still grieving, they then get harassed by cops, pulled over consistently, hanging out near their house. All these stories have been told, multiple versions of this. So it makes people stop and wonder, maybe I should just be quiet and grieve my loved one. It continues after death, you guys.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that fighting for justice makes you subject for retaliation. It's just disgusting. Like the police officer is the one who did something wrong. They're going to retaliate against the family for grieving and wanting justice if they were wrongfully killed. It's just absurd. And it's common within the Los Angeles Police Department as well. So many organizers with BLM LA, BLM Grassroots, the Black Lives Matter organizations in LA, the people who hold the megaphone get followed by the police all the time. There's so much retaliation against organizers who, at the end of the day, are fighting for justice and fighting for public safety. And it's sad that a police officer can use their time on the clock to harass people they have a person vendetta against.
It's just, we always talk about retrain them. Well, this looks like a pretty normal part about the training and then the cover up and then the harassment afterwards. It's disgusting stuff. I mean, I hope Feezy's family is away from all this stuff, but we'll see. LA County Sheriffs, that's how it rolls. Let's jump to this next story, considering someone wanting to, I guess, get themselves famous on camera as well, but for all the wrong reasons. Let's watch this.
I wanted to unintroduce myself.
Okay, nice to meet you.
I'm not sure if the previous owner had told you, we're actually gonna be the ones that just purchased the house.
Okay.
I know you have it rented, so I wanted to see if you were interested in stay rented there.
Yeah, I do.
I know the house needs some repairs. We plan on fixing up the house. I just wanted to get in touch with you and set times to start repairing the house and talk a little bit about the rent today.
Okay.
You're currently rented for $1,100 in that house, and it's in Miami. It's a pretty low price in today's market. I wanted to see if you wanted to stay there.
Yeah, I was planning on staying. I don't want to move, and I have been here for over 10 years.
I would want you to stay, but we'd have to raise it a little bit.
Okay, and?
There's houses in that area going for $2,500. You could take the lower end of $2,200.
Are you kidding me? That has to be a joke, $2,500. That's over double my current rent. I can't afford that. I have kids, and I'm already working 2 jobs as it is. Where do you want me to go?
This guy posted on TikTok, him apparently owning a house had just purchased, and he wanted to raise the rent on the tenants. As you heard, the situation there from $1,100 to about $2,200 at the top end of it. I mean, it's unconfirmed the level of whether or not this is actually happening in his tenant there, but it's a pretty typical story as you see rent prices change from ownership to just maybe the same guy wants to raise the rent because, hey, market prices say I have to gouge you further. So more about this as we watch his portrayal of what went down. So take that with a grain of salt, but let's watch this as it goes.
Burn the house down at this point so nobody gets anything. I should call the cops on you.
If you don't want to stay there for that price, I'm gonna have to put a 30-day notice. You could leave peacefully on time, but I definitely can't make it work at that rent amount.
Look, I'm calling my brothers and I dare you to try to pull up and give us the eviction notice. This is ridiculous. I'm not paying over double my rent.
We're gonna have to put the 30-day notice and go from there. I wanted to try to solve this, but if you can't go up, I understand.
You think I give a about your investment? I'm not paying that. Pull up to the house, I dare you. We'll be here waiting and it won't be a good time for you. This is ridiculous and you're a con artist.
You almost wonder if it's a prank, actually, because then he says he shows up at the house, which we don't see the house in this video. And maybe the police showed up later. We should look for some reports. But this is what he said didn't happen next.
I'm at the property right now. You sent over text that you'd be home.
You really thought I'd meet you in person after you tried to double my rent? I'm not paying more than $1,100.
Look, I told you I'd work with you. You know, I know you're at $1,100. Most of the properties in the area are at $2,500. I told you I'd work with you to be able to, you know, try and figure this out. I'm trying to make this possible here.
Possible? You're literally trying to double my rent.
I own the property now, and I hear you, but it's worth a lot more. Just my taxes and insurance alone are $1,100 a month. I'm trying to get you the best price here.
Sir, I literally don't care what you think. You can try to evict me if you want. I'm not leaving. Good luck. Oh, and I changed the locks too, by the way, so don't even try to put an eviction notice on my door or else.
I really wanted to work something out, but if not, I'm just gonna come back with the sheriff.
I don't doubt that. I'm done talking to you and blocking your number.
Attention for this. He was getting maybe the wrong kind. A few comments there you guys saw from his TikTok about how awesome this was. Again, to the degree to which the reality of it, we'll have to see. But people are saying this guy thinks that we're on his side, laughing, of course, about it. Someone else said he says he's working with her, but increasing her 100% money hungry. So many folks were commenting against his tactics there. But again, this is kind of normal with folks. Next thing you know, your rent's up and they say there's nothing I can do about it. I just have to get that much more money. But let's look at this last graph, you guys. Graphic 3 down here, because when it comes to how much folks are making versus how much I guess these homeowners and landlords are making, it just doesn't really add up. Because historically, an average house in the US costs around 5 times the yearly household income. And during the housing bubble of 06, the ratio exceeded 7. So in other words, an average single family house in the United States costs more than 7 times the US median and annual household income. That's the median. We're not talking about many folks that are beneath that. And also the number of people who themselves in shelters or homeless, maybe couch surfing, things like that, they have jobs, sometimes multiple jobs, but that's just not enough. But who cares? It's America. It's the land of the free and home of the homeless. Yes.
That's a good one, JR. That's a bar. In Miami, it turns out you need a 60-day notice if you're a landlord trying to raise rent for someone living in your unit. This seemed like a 1-day notice before he pulled up. So this is harassment, and that's illegal. So if he went to the sheriff's office and told the sheriff precisely what he was up to in the timeline, he would be the one who's in trouble. You can't just kick someone out of their home. It's ridiculous. And then to post it on TikTok, I can't believe he posted this himself. It's insane because I guarantee you, so many people in Miami who are looking for houses, the algorithm is going to show them this video and they're going to see this landlord. And if they go to sign a lease with him, I guarantee you they will not, given the behavior he's demonstrated on TikTok. So he's really playing himself on more fronts than one.
More fronts than one play. But I mean, I guess there's a boldness when it comes to like, we're the guys with the money and the property. Why would they go against us? We can call them hoarders and there's people just living off of my land. And I guess it generally works. Is that why you took off from the city here?
The landlords, yes, I fled. The lords of the land.
I'm not sure people knew that. I just want to point it out.
Yeah. No, that was a nightmare. I'm going to be like in a small claims lawsuit with the landlord in Los Angeles. It's literally awful. The way that they think they can just break the law, and because people don't have the resources to fight them, that they'll get away with it. And people will live in conditions that are less than what someone by the law can live under, right? But if you don't know your rights and you can't afford a lawyer, you pretty much take what you can get. And for many people in the United States right now, it's way more than they can afford. And then they're getting a unit that is below grade. It doesn't make any sense. Median rent surpassed $2,000 in May for the first time. Rent inflation has outpaced overall inflation. Overall inflation year over year has been about 7.1%. Rent inflation's been about 14%. They're raising the rents for more than necessary just to account for rental costs. And it's not helping either that the Federal Reserve is raising interest rates, which makes mortgages more expensive. Less people will buy homes. They'll be driven into the rental market. That's going to increase demand as well. And the consequence is that people are losing their homes. Not every city tracks the homeless population, but cities that do are reporting a 30% increase in the homeless population. And shelters, which is a good proxy measure, are reporting their wait lists are doubling and tripling in size. It's the consequence of people like this dude.
It's direct. And good news though, Jess, Republicans won the House because they ran on inflation, housing inflation. They want to change that. Yeah, right.
Guarantee those guys fight for this landlord.
Let's go ahead and jump to this next story. See if you guys have ever been involved in something like this, very uncomfortably.
See this going, but it's up to you, of course.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, if we're going to continue working together, I want to work with a woman sales representative because I don't want to have to see locker room talk about myself when you're sharing screens. So if we're going to move forward, I would like to work with a account rep that's maybe a woman in the area so that we can move forward that way. I know that was a mistake, but I don't want to see
that's
like
inexcusable mistake.
Yeah, I just don't want to see like locker room talk about myself. So if we could, I like the product. I know it's good. I know it's tried and true, but I just want to work with a woman like moving forward if possible.
Well, we have a couple of really good RSMs actually that you'll be able to work with. So
okay.
100% completely understand, and that's inexcusable. Regardless of who was a mistake sharing the screen, it shouldn't be talked about. So apologies on that.
A normal professional exchange for Whitney Sharp there, who's a vice president of an unnamed, here she posted, recruiting and staffing sales company. She's working apparently with a group of men on a Zoom call, and one of them shared their group texts, or at least messages, about what they thought of her, and she wanted none of it. And it's a shame that locker room talk is the term for that now because we got it from our former president. Still, here's the details of what went down though. So when a vendor accidentally shared his group Teams chat It's all nasty things about me is what she said. It's 2023, can this stop? That's what she put at the top of that video. And according to Sharp, this incident took place on January 24th during a work video call with potential clients. And she spoke with Today, and she said that as a vice president of her company, part of her role involves assessing different vendors that can enhance her business development teams. Apparently they were still pretty impressive because she said she wants to work with them still, despite all this, as long as she can work with a woman. But she did give more details of how this whole thing went down and how they reacted to that situation. Let's watch.
I got a call from that VP of sales this morning, not because he saw all of these TikToks. He actually had no idea that these were going on. He called me to do damage control, basically to save the sale. He wanted to make sure that I'm still in their good graces so that I would continue the sales cycle and in the end buy the product from them. I got a lot of comments that said drop the vendor. Well, I phrased that wrong. They're not currently a vendor of us yet. I was evaluating them to become one of our vendors. That will no longer be happening. I cannot work with a vendor, and my company will not support a vendor that does not support women in business. It's just not going to happen. His apology basically just reiterated the entire email he sent to me. It was not genuine. The only thing concrete he said he's going to do to take action is talk to HR this afternoon. He should have spoken to HR the second he heard about.
There's no reason to speak to them right away, right? She got cut off. Let's let her finish.
I got cut off, but he should have went to HR the second he heard about this yesterday at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. That's the real problem there, is that this isn't high enough up on their priority list. This isn't high enough on their priority list. They don't deserve to have a business. They don't deserve to employ any woman anywhere in the world. I just really can't believe the response and reaction that this company has given me. And it's clear they probably don't have daughters. Maybe they don't have sisters. Maybe they just don't respect women in general. But no one deserves to do business with this vendor. And I'm definitely teetering back and forth with, do I say who the vendor is? Do I not say who the vendor is? I do want to have some sort of mutual respect for some reason still between the two of us. I don't know why I care, but it's a lot. So I'll be continuing to post more videos since this has sparked some really important conversations.
So Jess, damage control versus change of course, I guess, is the way they were going about this.
Yeah, it's just gross how often women have to deal with stuff like this. Happens all the time. You know, now I work in whatever content creation and doing this and stuff like this, but I used to have like a regular salary 9-to-5 job working in data science and tech. And it's so difficult being in a field that is so dominated by men. You feel like you can't even speak up in situations like this. So it's honestly great that she did and said something about it. But when it's a field that's so dominated by men, you don't say things when, you know, there are microaggressions because you don't feel like you'll be heard. You don't feel like it'll be corrected, which of course is something she's dealing with. But also even in this industry, like the only reason I'm not signed with like a manager, because typically you have someone who helps, you know, with your bookings and whatever stuff. If you do entertainment, if you do content creation, every single time there's been a negotiation, it's turned into creepiness and like, let's go to dinner. And this is so common in the entertainment industry. It just sucks that like women cannot just do their job and their business without being objectified.
I guess every interaction is an opportunity to say and do whatever you can to get yourself ahead there. One thing I'll disagree with the woman there in that, what's her name, Whitney. She goes, maybe they don't have daughters or wives or you know, aunts, nieces. They do. It's separate for them. If somebody did that to their family, it'd be a problem. Let's go ahead and jump to this next story. As we see a disaster going around and of course power outages. This is one of those side effects. Let's watch this. No, that's not a scene from a food shelter and just has a disorganized way of getting food. That's from an HEB grocery store in Austin after those residents discovered that there was apparently free food being given out because power had gone out and the grocery store had to toss out tons and tons, hundreds of pounds of food, as a matter of fact. And they were even told, hey, you guys can't come get this. This isn't for you to take. they still did, and this happened.
Here in Austin at HEB, everybody's literally, I can't see anything. They're literally getting food. What the heck? From a trash bin, but recently throw food away.
Traffic jams, and I guess what people would assume would be unhoused folks digging in looking for their next meal. But no, these are residents still looking for that next meal because this is America so proud. George Morales, who's the Austin constable, warned folks against these actions, though. He said, this is not free food. We had over 250 people fighting in the dumpsters because someone posted, quote, free food, but this food is rotten and spoiled and it's unsafe to eat. Our percentage 4 deputies, I guess, PCT 4 deputies in APD responded to roads that were gridlocked because of this false post. The area is cleared by our office. If you know someone that got food, let them know that it is not safe. Here's another image of some of that food that was being tossed out, and folks saw and said, hey, I could use some of that. Here's another picture, and this is what stuck out to me. I looked a little closer. It seems like some of that stuff, of course, is perishable, eggs and stuff like that, frozen foods and things. I feel like I see peanut butter in there. I feel like I see boxed foods in there, which I don't know if those are refrigerated. Maybe certain ones are. Is that Atkins diet? Things like that were still in it, but they had to get tossed out for whatever reasons, for the safety of the grocery store and what they have to sell versus not sell for safety reasons. So of course people jumped all over it. This of course came because of the storm that was going down there in Texas in the Austin area and destroyed this power here. A little bit more on that, Jess, 1 second. Because 5 days after that winter storm brought ice to that area, more than 50,000 Austin Energy customers were still without power by Saturday evening. And the city-owned utility had no estimate on when power would be fully restored. Frozen lines and trees was part of the disaster this time, not like before when Cancun Ted took off to go bask in the sun. That time it was just a grid failure over the extreme temperatures and lack of preparation for it. This was something else, which maybe leads to some other kinds of solutions, which I'd have some thoughts on, Jess. But first, I guess there's a shortage here. And instead of us discovering how bad this is and why people react this way, we go, hey, you guys stop it.
Yeah, the police is preventing people from getting food from a dumpster in the greatest country in the world. Something's not right. It's pretty clear. If they're putting food in the dumpster and people are showing up in troves to get it, knowing there's a chance that it's spoiled, they need food that badly. These are not people who are doing a good and consistent job meeting their basic material needs on a consistent basis. That's pretty clear. And when we predict times of recession using things like gross domestic product, which is a measure of productivity, but it doesn't really tell us anything about how the goods and services we produce are distributed within the public. And wages have been stagnant since the 70s. Not only that, but since the beginning of the pandemic, we've seen corporations raise prices with 53% of that per unit cost contributed to by profit increases. It's not going to workers, it's not going to additional input costs. They're literally price gouging the public, and then the police isn't forcing them from being able to take food from a dumpster. Like, it's absolutely insane how much the working class is being squeezed from both sides, getting less wages and having to pay higher prices. The consequence is people are willing to eat food from a literal dumpster. Something's got to give.
It's a bit of a reoccurring thing because you may see restaurants throw out food at the end of the night. That's such a regular thing. And if there's folks that need it, they'd rather not give it to them because of the possibility that they're not gonna show up every night. Like some roaches showing up to get some food, but they'd rather waste it. And again, I've noticed significant changes in grocery prices, like significant, doubled on some certain things as of like from a year or two ago, even when they slowly creaked up. So if you think about it that way, this was my thought process. Giving away, throwing out food at this rate is okay. I mean, I guess, insurance or whatever else that they can do to recoup the costs. But when they have to raise those prices, and as you pointed out, Jess, those prices and those differences in amounts don't go to workers, don't go to making the folks who work for you have a better life. It actually goes to just more money to the top. But we'll write it off as just inflation, and they forced me to do this. But in reality, when things like this have to happen, I mean, are they crying about it? Are they very upset? Because there's some recourse for them there. It's just, it depends on what's important to folks. And it's pretty obvious what's not important to us is other folks and apparently your customers. Maybe come back next time. This is the way that we think in this capitalistic society. One last story here if we get out of here on this Monday. Let's start this here.
As alleged in the complaint, Sarah Beth Clendaniel and Brandon Russell conspired to inflict maximum harm on the power grid, a key component of our critical infrastructure. The accused were not just talking, but taking steps to fulfill their threats and further their extremist goals. Russell provided instructions and location information. He described attacking the power transformers as the greatest thing somebody can do. In her own words, Clendaniel said she was determined to do this. She added, "It would lay this city to waste."
Americans would like to lay a city to waste, specifically in this case, Baltimore. Who cares? Let's just lay it to waste for their own neo-Nazi ideals. So the FBI captured these two Nazi leaders in connection to this power grid attack that they were planning. Sounds familiar because we keep hearing about things happening. These two idiots apparently couldn't pull it off though. Here's more from the District Attorney of Maryland about how they were captured.
We are here this morning to announce the arrests of Sarah Clendaniel and Brandon Russell on criminal complaints for conspiring to attack our local power grid. As the criminal complaint alleges, Clendaniel and Russell conspired and took steps to shoot multiple electrical substations in the Baltimore area, aiming to, quote, completely destroy this whole city. But these plans were stopped thanks to the swift action and collaboration of our federal, state, and local law enforcement partners. Together, we are using every legal means necessary to keep Marylanders safe and to disrupt hate-fueled violence.
Marylanders can rest assured that a threat to disrupt their daily lives by attacking the local power grid has been stopped.
Can rest assured that it's been stopped. We just don't know if it's going to happen the next time. Let's jump to this first graphic here, you guys. Federal authorities describe the alleged plot as racially or ethnically motivated because more than 61% of Baltimore residents are black. Also, Brandon Russell, the other guy involved in this, he's 27 years old. He's a founder of the Adam Waffen Division, which is a neo-Nazi group bent on, quote, ushering in the collapse of civilization. That's according to the Southern Poverty Law Center. The group admires Charles Manson and supports the idea of lone wolf violence. Again, according to the Anti-Defamation League. This time, one more part here, because as I pointed out, this wasn't one of those standalone, just never heard of these events. This is terrorism, domestic terrorism, which apparently we don't care much about. Let's jump down to the fourth side here, because you guys may have heard about these instances as well.
Thousands were left without power in Tacoma, Washington this weekend following a series of attacks on local substations. 3 facilities were damaged as a result. Local officials say 2 of the substations were deliberately targeted in what's being described as an act of vandalism. Now, police are investigating the incident, but they have yet to identify a suspect or suspects. This is the latest in a series of attacks on electric substations across the country. Earlier this month, substations in North Carolina were damaged, leaving nearly 45,000 customers in the dark.
Because of white nationalism, white supremacy taking over and destroying our power grid. How un-American. It's weird how the lines keep crossing between patriots and Nazis. Un-American and so American. Just keeps happening. Even out there in your neck of the woods there, Jess.
Yeah, it's true. It's ridiculous. We have in Atlanta, in the Stop Cop City protests, the forest defenders are being labeled terrorists for preventing a huge police training facility from being developed, exercising their right to protest. And then we have these folks who have literally destroyed things, not being called terrorists, but being called vandals, despite saying they want the collapse of civilization. Whereas the protesters in Atlanta are trying to prevent the forest from being destroyed because they've seen the police murder their friends and family. It doesn't add up if you think that there isn't, I don't know, a common theme of fascism within the United States law enforcement. I mean, when Antifa is labeled terribly violent and terrorists, but fascists are just labeled vandals, it doesn't add up.
There's a reason why they like the lone wolf approach that they pointed out. One of those groups pointed out because that just lets everybody off the hook. It's just a lone wolf, just one person. He decided to do it on his own, or she decided to do it on her own. She got the ideas from herself. No one ever thought about this before. Never seen this happen, except the fact that it keeps happening, or at least in this case, was attempted to happen again because of that black majority, black city there. Yeah, at the same time, we have Ron DeSantis down in Florida talking about how he needs to eliminate the teaching of black history in this country and how it systematically has led us to where we are now. If you don't want us to lead to know what we're about and what we're doing now and how our policies are in place to help facilitate that, it means you enjoyed it from the beginning. You wish we could go back. Let's keep it real. Same stuff over and over and over again. Thank you, Jess, for joining me on the watch list, an afternoon version of it, which looks up at, oh my God, it's almost 3 o'clock on the West Coast Pacific time, leading into the Young Turks. Go check out Anna and Cenk for the next couple of hours. Thank you guys for being here. We'll see you guys tomorrow.